All right, still sticking with Nigerian football, but moving up towards the Super Eagles. There was a story that broke over the weekend, the early days of this week about Jose Peseiro, about him signing a deal with Zamalek, and then there was a subsequent story about the fact that he had applied for a job at Zamalek. But the coach, Jose Peseiro, has now come out to deny having any contact with Zamalek regarding their vacant role, the vacant coaching role at the Egyptian club. Peseiro, according to an Egyptian website, Quora, yesterday was one of the coaches who submitted their resumes for the top job after the recent sacking of Juan Carlos Osorio for poor results. The 63-year-old Portuguese recently signed a new one-year deal with the Nigeria Football Federation after his initial contract expired in June. The Portuguese tactician told reporters that he remained focused on his current job with Nigeria. Despite Peseiro's insistence on being committed to the Eagles' job, some football stakeholders in Nigeria have called for the immediate sacking of the Portuguese following the team's abysmal performance. Of course, Nigeria drew 1-1 against Lesotho last week at the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium in Uyo, and then went over to Butare in Rwanda to draw against Zimbabwe on Sunday. It was a very, 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 very painful result for a lot of Nigerian fans, and many people in Nigeria are now saying, including a board member of the Nigeria Football Federation, who did come out to say that, look, this guy has to go. If we had the money, we will be sacking Jose Peseiro right now. Just so you know that Jose Peseiro is being owed salaries by the Nigeria Football Federation. So he was owed up until May of last year, May 2022, and then a tranche of money came in and they paid him 3 further months. So it was on $70,000 a month, but his deal was rearranged and reduced to $50,000 a month. And then on that $50,000, he was paid 3 months, which was June, July, and August of 2022. And since then, he hasn't been paid. So the coach of the Super Eagles has been owed his salaries since August of 2022. We're in November of 2023. So that means that he's been owed 15 months' salaries as we speak, himself and his coaching crew. So that's that about that. That's just a quick information for those who have been talking about how much he earns. People saying, oh, he earns $50,000, he can't coach well. He's not even getting paid. He's not getting paid his funds. That said, I also don't think that he's the best manager for the Super Eagles, but he is the manager as we speak, and he deserves all the support that he can get, especially as Nigeria is aiming to do it again at the AFCON. We don't see how that's going to happen just yet, but who knows? Teams, of course, go on to tournaments, go on Cinderella runs, and create absolute magic from absolute nothing. And we do hope that the Super Eagles are able to rise up from the chaos, the madness that we saw in the last 7 days from the team. All right, so still talking about national teams, let's move on to the women's national team, the Super Falcons. Members of that team that went to the 2023 Women's World Cup, which was jointly hosted by Australia and New Zealand, were paid the sum of $40,500 in contrast to the supposed $60,000. The 2023 Women's World Cup was the biggest edition of the competition ever, with FIFA expanding the tournament to 32 teams and also increasing the prize money significantly. Last year, June, FIFA President Gianni Infantino announced that the world body would dole out $110 million in prize money to the 32 participating teams, which is close to 4 times from the $30 million in 2019 allocated for 24 teams. The World Football Governing Body added that all the 732 players in the new scheme were guaranteed to receive $30,000, while the 23 players in the winning team will pocket $270,000 each. The first time ever that women players will receive guaranteed pay at a FIFA World Cup. Now, after earning the guaranteed $30,000 for appearing in the group stage, the Falcons earned another $30,000 after making it to the round of 16 of the competition. Now, for progressing from the group stage, each member of the 23-woman Falcon squad was assured a combined $60,000 each, which amounted to about 46.2 million naira as at the exchange rate last year, August. It was $30,000 being the prize money in the group stage and of course, like I explained, $30,000 for the round of 16. Players from several teams at the World Cup received significantly less than they hoped. So just so you know that it is not the NFF that has stolen their money as a result of a significant level of tax that was imposed on their match earnings by the Australian Tax Office. Now, according to The Guardian UK, all players whose teams were based in Australia for the duration of the World Cup are receiving just a little bit over 2/3 of the match fees, with the Australian Tax Office imposing a 32.5% withholding tax. That's absolute madness. Well, madness when you compare it to Nigeria, but I mean, that's a lot of money to pay as tax. And the imposition of this tax was an integral part of the hosting agreement that FIFA agreed with the Australian government before the competition. Now, the tax imposition implies that Nigerian players who reached the last 16, of course now losing to England, earned $60,000 each, but only received $40,500 after tax from the Australian authorities. In contrast, all teams that played their group stages and knockout matches in New Zealand, don't forget, 2 countries hosted the World Cup. If you played in New Zealand, you collect your full money because there was no deduction from New Zealand, given the tax-free status by New Zealand's Internal Revenue Department. Then teams who played in both countries, and that happened. So some teams, because of where they finished in the group stage, had to play their round of 16 in New Zealand, or if they played in New Zealand in the group stage, had to play in Australia. They were taxed on a pro rata basis, meaning the game you played in New Zealand, they'll calculate it, divide it by the total number of games, blah, blah, blah. It was basically on a pro rata basis. And as long as you played in Australia, for the days you were in Australia, there would be a deduction from your funds. And so the NFF have come out to explain that when these monies came in from FIFA, before they disbursed it to the players, they showed the instruction and the explanation for why the money was deducted from source to the players, and the players, of course, do understand that there has been no foul play. So the players have now received their funds, and there are absolutely no issues with regards to funds from the World Cup with the Super Falcons.